welcome back. Did you know that all bourbons are whiskeys, but not all whiskeys are bourbons? It can be a very confusing conversation, okay? So today we are learning all about both spirits. Joining now for this week's Happiest Hour is Adam Acquistapace of Acquistapace's Markets. Adam, what's happening?
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. We made it through Mardi Gras. Now it's on the festival season.
That's
it
right.
does not stop here in the great city of New Orleans. And I'm so glad we're talking about this. We actually were talking about this a couple of weeks ago on camera. The difference, right? So let's talk about what I just said. How that all bourbons are whiskeys, but not all whiskeys are bourbons. So tell me the differences.
All right. So real simply put, whiskey is basically distilled beer. Okay.
What?
So you can make whiskey from all over the world. You have to use some sort of grain. So whether it be wheat or corn or rice or barley.
Yeah.
So everybody uses some sort of grain. So, but the difference is to be bourbon whiskey is a recipe. It has to come from the United States. So a lot of times people say, well, bourbon's got to be from Kentucky. Baloney.
Baloney.
Baloney. But bourbon can come from anywhere in the United States. In fact, we make bourbon here in Louisiana.
Yeah.
We're gonna have some from Mississippi. So the thing is the rules to make bourbon is you have to be predominantly corn.
Okay.
And you have to be aged in new charred oak barrels.
Wow.
And so that's, I mean, it raises the cost of doing production, but what they're trying to do is trying to have an authentic, a consistent flavor. And so what is the product? But most of it comes from Kentucky, but it can come from anywhere in the United States.
And like you alluded to earlier, you can really make it anywhere, including right here in the South.
You can.
Let's try this one from Mississippi. What have you brought us today?
So a couple of things. So one, so this one is actually Crittenden's. So this is would you want this on ice or neat?
What do you suggest?
Well,
because you know, so many people, they depend on just kind of how they want to feel at the end. You know, what do you suggest?
So it really depends. So in this case, we have these big, huge cubes of ice, and the reason is we don't necessarily want it to dilute the whiskey too much.
Right.
Because to be bourbon whiskey, you have to be a minimum of 80 proof.
80 proof.
80 proof.
All right.
Yeah. So
like my tip
that's
taste.
right. But then there's something called bottled in bond. So if you ever see bottled in bond, so it has to come from that distillery, and it has to be, there's an aging requirement. It has to be at least 4 years old. It has to be at least 100 proof.
Wow.
From a single season.
Is 100 proof?
Yes, sir, it is. Yep.
Let's go ahead and put it over ice.
We'll put it over ice.
Dilute it a little bit. We've got a long hour.
That's right. That's right. So
when you pour it though over ice, is it just par for the course, right? It's going to dilute a little bit because of the ice?
That's correct. So the reason is, whenever you drink whiskey or any spirit at what people would say like cask strength or barrel strength, it's too high. I know there's a lot of debate about that, but like a whiskey that's 125 proof may be exciting. It's going to be concentrated, but whenever it hits your palate, it's going to anesthetize your tongue and anesthetize all those things in there. And sometimes you'll only really just smell alcohol. So you always want to add a little bit of dilution because it's already diluted.
Right.
So when it comes out of might come out of the barrel at 125 proof.
Yeah.
And so they add water to bring it down to 80 proof. And so it already has water added to it to bring it down to whatever the proof is. And so in this case, we may be bringing it down to maybe 50 or 60 proof.
Well, let's not have it dilute anymore. Let's
we
try it.
won't.
Shout out to Mississippi. We love you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ooh, that is proof.
It's pretty good. And Crittenden's so this is from Kiln. They do a great job. But they make great whiskey all over the place. And something you'll see on whiskey, we'll talk about in the next series too, but you'll see on the label. So whiskey from Ireland and whiskey from America, United States, when they spell whiskey on the label, it's going to have
the EY.
EY.
Right.
That's right, EY. Everywhere else in the world
has just a Y.
Just a Y. But we'll talk about that later. But I just want to throw that.
Just teased
I
you
did
all.
A little bit.
We're doing a two-part series, so
a little bit.
Next Friday we're going to talk about the other different types of whiskeys. But
That's
let's
right.
go and try another bourbon, and this time I want to try it neat.
All right, let's do Eagle Rare.
Eagle Rare.
Right there. Yeah. So,
I knew I got it right. Come on.
All right. So Eagle Rare. Look, it says aged 10 years. So every drop of whiskey in this bottle has to be a minimum of 10 years old. Okay, and it can be blended of years. It's not from a single barrel, but it can be. but everything in here has to be a minimum of 10 years old.
And when we talk about the age, right, especially when it comes to a bourbon, right? What is it adding? Is it adding just a different color?
Yes.
Or is the flavor being more denounced? Okay, yes to both of those.
Yes to both.
See, I know a thing or two.
All right, so what's happened is when they toast the inside of the barrel, they're charring the inside, and if we want to get into the science of it, they're releasing the vanillin and exposing those things. And so as the whiskey comes in contact with that, it starts leaching all those things out of the barrel, and like that vanilla, that toasty, those toasty notes and that toasted flavor, and that's where the color is coming from as well.
Really?
Yep.
Well, let's try it neat.
Yep.
How do you decipher neat versus not neat?
I am a fan when drinking bourbon whiskey in general. I like to just pour a little bit in a glass. I like to taste. And I maybe just put a few drops of water in. Just enough to open it up and for the aromatics. But in this case, I think Eagle Rare, I can't remember the proof on here. This one's 90, so 90 proof. Yeah.
Woo! That put hair on my chest.
So,
okay.
so a lot of times, if you're going to drink it neat, I recommend chilling it.
Yes.
In the fridge or in the freezer for a little bit, just to kind of bring the temp down. Because when you bring the temperature down, the alcohol is not as volatile.
Right.
And so it'll kind of soften things up a little bit, just like we do with wine.
Yes.
We bring the temp down a little bit. But there's a lot of things. Even when you're drinking bourbon, you want to always snack on little foods. Drink plenty of water, because water is going to help refresh your palate.
Absolutely.
Whether it be still water or sparkling water.
And I see you have so many different options.
We do.
Different cheeses. We have some olives here, as well as some nuts. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Listen, I'm going to have to eat some of that during the commercial break. Do I still have eyebrows? Oh my goodness.
This is
Look,
good stuff.
Adam,
This is good
this
stuff.
really is
Yeah,
some
it
good
really
stuff.
is.
And look, everyone, if you want to pick up your next great bottle of bourbon or a different type of whiskey, head over to Acquistapace's. Their liquor selection is unbelievable. 3 locations, 1 in Covington, 1 in Mandeville, and 1 in Slidell. For more information on all they offer, Acquistapace.com. And remember, especially when you're drinking brown, always drink responsibly. Coming up next week, you have to stay tuned because we're talking different types of whiskey. That's next Friday, but a lot more show after the break. Don't move.